Greetings. Can you hear me?
Greetings, great one.
Oh,
I can hear you perfectly.
oh, awesome, awesome. I don't know if my reception can be bad, and so I pray it's not disturbing too much and you can hear me and see me okay.
I can hear you perfectly, great one. Okay.
It's a pleasure. Is it Avi?
Yeah, this is Avi. This is Avi, brother.
Okay.
How are you doing, brother?
I'm okay, Avi. Thank you for sharing time with me. Thank you for connecting. Thank you for engaging. Thank the ancestors for bringing us together today.
Oh, that's amazing. It's an honor. It's an honor to meet great minds like you as well, to exchange our thoughts as well. It's an honor.
Avi, I was really struck. I am new to your website, Ubuntu. I am new to your organization in terms of being aware that you existed and the nature of your work from the little I have been able to see on your social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and some of the YouTube videos. What particularly struck with me, and I can't remember the lady's name, please excuse me, was the conversation she had with regards to fasting. I think it was lecture 2 with regards to the composition of a man.
Oh, Barakabelo, amazing.
So in terms of the things that flashed in my head about it and what she was saying and my own experience of fasting and how beneficial it is, it just struck with me. And again, looking at what, from my impressions, you were trying to do, I simply just wanted to connect with you. Even if it's coming and being participants in some of these events, if there are events that you have, I would like to, on a personal basis, as Yannick, my own time out of interest and to educate myself. So I have personal individual interest, first and foremost. Outside of that, I also have an interest in you personally. How has this come about? What inspires it? What drives you to continue? Because our experiences, this isn't easy, it's challenging for different people that we have come across in different ways, but yet they continue, and that speaks to us. And so it's just to hear you and learn a bit more about you and your story. It's, I think from our side, good that we've connected on different platforms. It's a good learning opportunity, the WhatsApp platform that you're running. So I'm just trying to get into the conversations and pick up on things. And I think with our group as well, the several groups you've joined, it's an opportunity, I think, for us to know outside of each other some of the nature and the work that we're doing. And generally how that tends to unfold is we strike a chord somewhere, and that usually materializes to whatever it may be in time to come. But essentially, I just wanted to say thank you for connecting with me, for taking the time to learn a little bit more about yourself and Zola Bantu.
Wow, that's an honor. It's really an honor, Yannick, to really connect with you as well. You know, actually, we are looking for people. Don't mind my camera. I'll switch it on in just a few minutes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult to find people that you can engage in and have a unity of thoughts. I think that's what we've been lacking as Africans, to unite in our minds as well, because we always talk about uniting in numbers, but we don't really talk about how we can unite in our thoughts, because the issue that we are facing as Black people is because there are few people who really have an agenda to really get rid of melanated people. So my journey has been to see how I can awaken the mind of Black people. I don't like to say Black people of recent. I prefer to say African people, because From the definition of black, it has no absence of color and absence of light. And I believe that God is light, His consciousness, His energy. So I prefer to call ourselves to be African, you know. So I was in the Matrix for over 23 years, swimming and dancing in the Matrix, comfortable in the Matrix. It's only 5 years ago that I really began to ask myself important questions about life, you know, and it required me to make some sort of movement. I think you have to have a spirit that is so mobile. Mobility, it's really important. Sometimes they say curiosity kills, but it also helps. It really began to hit me that I began to be curious of so many things. So I said, okay, let me just leave my comfort zone of Christianity, praying 5 times a day and going to church and, you know, giving my tithes and offering, giving my entire life to a guy on the cross saying he did everything for me. And I came to realize that everything that I was doing in life required my own personal effort. If I wanted to pass an exam, I didn't have to pass it by faith. I had to spend countless nights studying formulas to be able to succeed an exam. So how then is my entire life given to one particular person that he has taken it over and everything about me is done? So I began to study nature. And when I began to study nature, I began to understand, okay, there's something else going on over here. So this pushed me to begin to really help me, because I was in Africa, and you know, in Africa there's a lot of connection problems. So really seek out knowledge which is available on the internet, very difficult because internet problems. So when I came to India to study, so it really gave me access to the internet and also so many other information out there. So I really began to read more books. I was reading 4 books a week, and I was listening to so many sermons of pastors, religious. So my spirit began to move. I began to have that mobility, and the curiosity began to rise. You know, in my journey, I met amazing speakers like Miles Monroe, you know, speaking about, you know, the 5 questions of life: who am I? Where am I from? What can I do? Why am I here? Where am I going? It really began to make me ask what we call existential questions. And then when I began to really ask important questions about life, then it began to contradict my personal belief that was bestowed upon me for years. So that really, really gave me a big awakening. I would say a big slap to wake up, you know. So, and then it really gave me more motivation to really do some research on African history and Black history. So I really began to study in depth African history, because if you look at the content of African history, which is out there in the libraries of the Matrix, it's only 500, 600 years old. And the system of the West has been dominating the world for over 6,000 years. So it means I had to go 6,000 years back to really know how was life in Africa 6,000 years back. Shockingly, Brother Yannick, what I came to discover is that your ancestors and my ancestors, we had a different perception of life about 6,000 to 7,000 years ago. And that comes with the fall of the civilization of Egypt, Kemet, and also Ethiopia. So I began to study Black history, African history, up to 27,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago.
20,000.
I was completely shocked to find out that we actually, you know, we were great. Our ancestors did amazing things that surpasses what we see currently. And then the truth that I discovered during my entire path led me to begin to write my own ideas, led me to begin to really assemble a couple of ideas that I really learned towards my journey. And then this is what gave me the push to say, okay, I want to share this to the world. I want Black people to know this too. I want African people to know that they were great. Because up to this particular part, I know that I am my own ancestor. So sometimes we blame our ancestors to say, okay, they did this, forgetting that. And I came to discover the truth, you know, about life, that life is not YOLO, you only live once. That's crap. That we are actually our own ancestors. So it really gave me so much perception about life, and I had to see how I can get out of the matrix. I wouldn't say I'm out of it 100% completely, but I'm very, very sure that maybe one leg is left inside, but my entire body is out, And then I came to discover that, we currently have been mentally colonized, we've been completely destroyed mentally. And that is the reason why we are the way we are today. And I came to also find out about the principles of Ubuntu, because that is how we perceive the world about 7,000 years ago. When we built the very civilization, Egypt, Kemet, if you go to Egypt, the remains are over there of spirituality. So I came to really discover that our ancestors back in Egypt really knew the essence of life. They knew the meaning of life. They knew that we came into this world, we were spiritual beings having a physical experience. So as much as you are a driver in a car, between you and the car, it is the driver whose life is more important, because the car is just a vessel helping you to get to work. So the spirit, which is the driver driving this body, it is the goals of the driver which is supposed to be attained. But you would notice that when the civilization of the West came in to invade our civilization about 6,000 years ago, they completely changed our perception of life. They brought people beginning to focus more on the outer vessel to make it more comfortable and put to sleep the driver. So we became like driverless cars with no driver, So we began to live more from the outward in and not from the inward out, because Africans used to live from the inward out. We used to live, the purpose of life was to obtain spiritual values and virtues, love, joy, peace, kindness, self-control. So if you met an African 6,000 years back, they would say, this man, Yannick, is a great man because he has love, he has joy, he has peace, he has kindness. But today, if you want to point to a great man, you look at the bank account, you look at the likes and the followers. So the civilization of our ancestors was reversed. I call it paradigm. So we moved away from the paradigm of Ubuntu into the paradigm of accumulation of riches. So when these people came to our nations of Egypt, they took over. Many of these Greeks people, when they came to Egypt, they learned most of their knowledge from Egypt. They took their knowledge from Egypt, and then they went away and created a new paradigm. And then later on, they came with this Alexander the Great, who was gay by the world, and they overturned the entire civilization of Egypt. The Israelites, you and I, black people, were forced out. The scriptures say Moshe was told to take our people out, and then they had to run to Africa. So we went into a journey of over 1,000 years of being chased everywhere, and we were being killed because the world did not like us. So black people were completely seen as second class, and we were killed and destroyed for over 1,000 years of exile, up to the point we even lost knowledge because we never had books on our way running. We never had clothes. So we arrived in the heart of Africa around 690 AD, and we tried again to see how we can put ourselves together. But unfortunately, in the 14th century, these devils came again. So history teaches us that they came to Africa looking for a better life or looking for land, but they strategically came to Africa because they knew there were some special people down there that we have to get rid of. Because when they read in the text, they knew that these people left Egypt into Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. It means that space of Africa is very rich in minerals, so they knew it. So in the 14th century, the Portuguese were the first to come. Around 1490, they arrived in my country of Congo, Matadi. And then, in 1754 up to 1850, almost 100 years of slavery, we were sold everywhere. We took our brothers and sisters to the Caribbean to work in all these plantations. And then sadly, in the 1900s, they came again and colonized us for over 500 years. So 500 years, Brother Yannick, is 13th generation. Suppose you have a child, and your child is your first generation. Now think about it. 12 generations next. If I teach your child something different now, and then the child teaches the same thing to his child for the next 12 generations, it means you are completely, you're completely erased. So that is how we completely forgot who we are, lost our identity, because 18 generation of loss of knowledge. So today, and most Africans, you're like a Windows computer running on an iOS software. You know, you have a nice desktop, but the hard drive is completely destroyed. So it really led me to discover a lot of truths for Yannick in my journey, and all these things I have assembled them into information, into 2 syllables, the foundation course to prepare your brain to move over to understand the world, and then we have the pure spirituality where we begin to awaken the mind. So if you look on the YouTube page, we have the foundation course, and then I just recently began this pure spirituality part. But again, it made me to think, okay, I'm trying to free people's mind, but I have to provide for them an alternative. So if you look in the website, we have projects that can help us to see how we can build our own new civilization. Now, if you're a person who understands the times, you will know that we are in the time of Aquarius. It means the tick of the clock is right on top by the 12th hour. And if you study the creation of man, I know some people don't believe in evolution and all that. It's a lot of things, but there's a lot of truths in the scriptures as well. For example, in the Bible, in the Quran and all that. But the Bible that we use currently in Africa was fabricated, manipulated in the Council of Nicaea, 223, I think, AD, and the Council of Constantinople, 553 AD. So the Bible that we're using in Africa is a colonization manual. It was well designed strategically to keep a black person completely mentally extravated. So it takes a wise mind to be able to decode the scriptures and know which are additions and which are subtractions. So not everything in the scriptures is completely false, but you have to be wise enough to decode the scripture. For example, in Genesis it says that Adam and Eve ate a fruit. You know, they tell the story like it's some fruit in the garden, but no, you know that the fruit is actually they took on new ideas that made them to begin to think differently. So they completely changed the entire story of Noah and the ark and all that. So I began to read the Bible again differently with a new eye, and I began to really see where the things were added, where the things were removed. And now I completely understand some of the things, how it was written and what things were added. So it has been very, very difficult, Brother Yannick, to really see the African problem. And now I understand why we are the way we are, why we are not developing. So the paradigm that the Europeans brought with colonization, they only see Africa as a reservoir of primary materials and nothing else. So if you are an African leader and you want to work with them, you have to accept to get the minimum. They don't consider us to be human beings. They impose on us governments of democracies, but democracy was built on principles of racism. The Greeks who developed the word demokratia in their society, the black people were taken to be slaves. If you had thick lips, if you had brown, if you had black skin, if you had a big nose, you were considered to be a slave. So when the Romans invaded the Greeks and later on took on the library of Greeks and took the mindset of the Greeks, and today the Romans, back in the days, divided into different kingdoms. The Romans are the Spaniards, Spain, Belgium, the Franco, French, Anglo-Saxon, English, England. So these are Romans. So they think like the Greeks. And then when they came to colonize Africans, they brought the ideas and mindset of the Greeks. So democracy cannot work for we as Africans because it does not align with our cultures and our roots. But unfortunately, we have adopted this thing for over 60 years in many African countries. We adopted democracy and it does not work because it does not align with our cultures. So as long as we continue in this way without awakening the minds of Africans, it's very, very, very difficult for us to get out of this pain. We'll continue to be suffering. So Ubuntu is a platform that is trying to see how we can recruit some good minds, some hearts of Ubuntu people who can really understand the issues of Africa, and we can come together to be able to launch and prepare the space of Africa for the reign of 1,000 years, because we're in the time of Aquarius, and the cosmic time has over 560 years, roughly 2,000 years. That's each cosmic time. And according to the time of Aquarius, it lasts over 2,560 years. And the time of Aquarius began in the 14th century. So if you count from the 14th century up to now, 2021, we have roughly 700 years to complete half of it. So the remaining 1,000 years is going to be the reign of 1,000 years. So we have to really prepare the hearts and space of Africa for the reign of 1,000 years. What I'm saying, maybe you may not fully agree with them, but with time, I guess we can be able to exchange knowledge among ourselves as well. So it's very, very critical. It's a difficult time, my brother. And at Ubuntu, we're trying. Right now, we only have 58 ambassadors. It means 58 people that we know who are really believing in what we do. And we have about 7 to 8 projects that we're working on at the moment. Farming project. We want to be able to grow our own food, because that's the target right now. The pandemic is going to be very difficult. We have been consuming GMO food for decades, I know, but we need to be able to grow our own food. We need to be able to change our educational system. So we have the project of farming. Every African, every person in their house needs to have a small garden where they can grow at least 20% of what they consume. That would be a good step. The second step is to be able to have an educational syllabus. We're working at the moment with every educational syllabus of Africa that is based on principles of Ubuntu. Because white people, what they did was they took away manual skills of people and they gave them papers of degrees. Back in the days, if you were a plumber, you see your whole family as a plumber. You just need to take this. If you're a carpenter, you didn't need to go to university to become a carpenter. No, you just learn from your dad, and then that's how you survive. So they took away all the manual skills and replaced them with all these skills of the university and English and all this, which is useless. So we're trying to restore those principles of Ubuntu in our syllabus. We are teaching how the preparation before marriage, how to receive a good child, how to have a good family, how to raise up a child at the age of 1 to 7, from 7 to 12, how to prepare them from 12 to 14 to 21, how can they be of service society. So the farming project, the education syllabus project, we're working on different lectures like you saw, and the lecture that you listened to on the composition of man. That's one of our ambassadors, Brother Cabello. He's based in the States. He's been teaching us on restorative health. So we have many projects that we're working on to be able to see how we can, so as we awaken people's minds, we can provide for them an alternative away from the matrix. So it hasn't been easy, and I myself, I'm growing as well every day. So anything that I can learn from you, Brother Yannick, that can be able to move us forward as a people to more and more move away from the matrix, I would definitely welcome it. When I did some study in Egypt of the Egyptian civilization, it's not what is taught on TV. That is crap. The pyramid is triangular because it's symbolic. In Egypt, they built their society under 3 principles, which we call in the Congo, Nsaku Mpamvu Nzinga. It means the priests, the scientists, and the governors. Love, peace, love, purity, and justice. Zolangangu Lendo. That's where the name of Zolabantu comes from. So they had those 3 principles. They had the priest on top of the pyramid, and then they had the scientists, and then they had the governors. You see? So the priests were getting information and intuition from the creator, and then they'll pass the information to the scientists and the governors to run the society. So that is how they built the society in that triangular, respecting those 3 principles. If you notice in the Bible, Noah was by the side of the heart of Africa before the flood. So when the flood came, It's the story of the flood I'll explain to you maybe in a different time. But the flood came, so he was supposed to get into a boat. And in the boat, he got in with his 3 sons, and their names is Zola, Ngangule, not the name they were given in the Bible, Shamhem and Japheth, that is crap. Noah, a black man, with his 3 sons, Zola, Ngangule, who God had given the knowledge of Zola to be a priest, Ngangu to be a scientist, and Lendo to be a governor. They took these 3 principles up into Egypt to build the greatest civilization that lasted over 12,000 years that you see today of Egypt. Under those 3 principles of Zola, Ngangu, Lendo. If you go to Africa, you'll notice the mother will be cooking suji or fufu by placing 3 rocks on the ground and then the pot on top. So those were the principles. So it's symbolic to mean that for any society to function, the priest, the scientist, and the governor needs to work together. That's the fire that lights up the pot to cook the amazing meal for you to consume. That is how society of Egypt was built. But today, the Europeans brought a different type of pyramid. It invaded. The scientists and the governors are on top, and the priests are below. So the scientists can go ahead and make an atomic bomb. The governors can go and steal public goods. But in the civilization of Egypt, the priests were on top. The scientists could not do anything without consulting the priest. So that is how it was. And then the governor could not do anything without consulting the priest. So the priest was on top because the priest was the one that was connecting the people to God. So a scientist could come up with a plan, okay, let's do this, but if it does not align and it's not in harmony with nature, the priest would say, no, this is not a good idea, think of something else. So if you brought an idea of a car which runs on petrol to a priest in Egypt, the priest would deny it because petrol, when it burns, releasing carbon dioxide, which destroys the environment. But because the governors and the scientists rule the world today, they can make anything that destroys the environment. So you may ask yourself, why did we not have cars and all the technologies that we have today back in Egypt? Because we understood how harmful those technologies were to the environment. So we preferred to ride horses and chariots because we knew that we came into this world to have a physical experience with spiritual beings, but we had to also respect the physical nature as well. So, but the Europeans are very detrimental. Maybe one day I'll explain to you deeper on why they are the way they are and why did they come into this world, because there's a lot of things into that as well. So that is what Solar Project is. Not all our members fully grasp the principles that I'm teaching at Ubuntu, but the fact that they have come and they have that willingness to learn, it's a good thing. Okay, so you might meet some people in the group who might be giving their own ideas. This is not to say everybody understands this principle, everybody's living in these principles, but we hope that slowly we can all maybe bring our knowledge together and gather enough Mpamvus, the scientists, to gather enough governors and to gather enough priests. If you break it down, a priest is anybody that connects a person. A priest is anybody that helps a person directly. So a teacher, a lawyer, a doctor, all these are under the priest. If you're an engineer, if you are an IT technician, if you're a chemical engineer, if you're an electronic engineer, you are Mpamvu. It means you are studying nature to make man's life comfortable. If you're a policeman, if you are a president, if you're a minister, then you are what you call Nzinga, you're a governor. So that is how we plan to divide the responsibilities under Solar Ubuntu. We're going to identify everybody's strengths and place them under those 3 principles. But the key principle is love. How can we all live in love? So that's how we began. And then everything that you see in the YouTube channel, these are our people who are making those kind of contents to be able to see how we can bring African people together. So I'll end with this. In Africa, we have 3 types of people. We have the Afrikaans, we have the Afrikaans, Kant with C-A-N-T, and then we have the African, like you and me. So the Afrikaans are those that understand fully the problems of Africa. They understand what is going on in Africa, but they have decided to say, okay, Yannick, screw you. I gotta make money. Life is too short. I have to work with the enemy. These are mostly our politicians, our businessmen, celebrities that run Africa. We have about 10% of Africans. And then we have the Africans. These are people who are locked in dogmas and precepts, ignorant, poor. So anything that the Africans tell them to do, they'll do it because they're ignorant, they do not know what's going on. They're still in the matrix. And then we have the Africans like you and I who are really beginning to ask questions. But the problem is that we are few in number as compared to the Africans who are ignorant and locked up in the matrix, and they're being controlled by the Africans. So for us to be able to free our people, we need to convert the Africans into Africans so that they can no longer be controlled by the Africans. So the strategy of saying, let's go and speak to the government, let's speak to our president to see how we can free ourselves will never work, because the president or the president of Africans are Africans. They are placed to save the white man. They can never do anything for black people. You saw what happened to Magufuli. He was an African, luckily, but he was eliminated. So we have to see how, the beautiful platform that you have of BM, how you can convert many Africans into Africans, into Africans to be able to free our people, because we cannot, the Africans, they cannot do anything for us because they are comfortable. They themselves are also mentally extroverted. Even the white people that you see in Europe, not all the white people are are basically tormenting black people. You have the elites, you have to differentiate. You have the elites white people who are actually doing the things, but the majority of white people are also enslaved just like black people mentally, but they profit from the system because the system caters for them because they have the white skin. But many of them are also mentally extroverted, just like Africans, but they do not know the realities of the world. But the ones that are really destroying the world are the white elites. Some people call them the Ashkenazi Jews. Some people call them the protocols or the elders of Zion. Some people call them the Illuminatis. These are the ones that are really calling the shots. The big families, the Rockefellers and all this, the Carnegies. These are the ones that are really running the world. And then they have also enslaved their own people, other white people, and then those white people profit from the system. So it's not what we are fighting as Zolabantu. It's not a fight of race, because if you go deep into pure spirituality, you understand that reincarnation exists. So maybe by Yannick, in the previous life you were a white person, you may never know. So you cannot hate the white skin. You have to look inside the heart, which is evil. So like I said, you may be driving a car which is black, and I may be driving a car which is white. It's not about the car color, it's about who's the driver in there. So all the people you see in the world are simply cars with a driver inside. So you cannot label everybody to be bad because they are white. And you have to look at the driver who's driving it. Because even in Africa, we have a lot of evil people, but they are black like you and I, So it's not about the outer car, it's about looking at the drivers. We need to be able to identify which driver we can go ahead with, So I hope I was brief with my explanation of Zolabantu, and I'm glad that you're recording it, so maybe you can listen to it if I was fast. But I really appreciate, brother.
Avi, I hope this is the beginning of more of these conversations and more to come. And I would like to talk with you as well. I wanted to see you, and it's a little bit more intimate than being on the telephone. But I would like to have a conversation, an unrecorded conversation with you in more detail when you have availability about your journey, your specific journey, the awakening or part elements of the awakening taking place maybe 5 years ago, as you mentioned. I underwent a similar journey. In terms of reading, in terms of buying books, in terms of asking questions, going back to Genesis and asking this word, what does it mean? Where does it come from? What do they mean by it when they wrote it? And with the way I process and work, I have to then go and know the meaning of that word and the meaning of that word and see how they meant it then. And in all of that activity, and buying various different kinds of books, a lot of which is history based. So you can see behind me, there's some collections over there. Sold everything I had at that point in time just to buy some of these books. But so I could learn and I could raise my own awareness with some of the questions that I had of what happened. And it was personal to who am I reading? And in asking that very, very deep question, I began to maybe ask some of the right questions, which is what I realized I wasn't doing in the first place. It was the nature of the questions I was asking. And so that brought about the work we do today. That brought about this conversation we're having. And that brings about a number of different things I feel connects instantly with what you say, and encourages me and gives me what, for me, I need to be very enthusiastic about doing something with you, working together in any kind of capacity. Because there is zero you have said that doesn't align with my truth so far. Not that that was even my expectations, but there's a symmetry, there's an understanding, there's a take, there's a lot of learning which I think you bring, which I would like to benefit from too. And in the same token, if there is anything that I do that we look at that you think could provide learning for yourself or others or good synergies, we are open. And let me repeat that, we are completely open. But we would talk, I'm hoping, Avi, going back and forth, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's on this, whether it's in different modes. One of the things I guess I suggested to you, mindful of your time at the moment, is doing some workshops together. We're very big on health, holistic health, and that can be interpreted in different ways, and updating and I guess helping some of our kind that are in that matrix to find what it is they need to help them along that journey. One of the things that concerns us is nutrition. And when you were talking about teaching people, the education programs that you have with regards to educating people about growing things in their garden, that already piqued some interest for me on the basis that where we live, I live in the UK today, I wasn't born here, I didn't grow up here, I spent 9 years of my life, 10 years of my life in Africa before I eventually came here. And when I buy fruit today, I leave it in the fridge. Within 2 or 3 days it's up. I'm not used to that. And that didn't happen when I grew up. We had mango trees, papaya trees, this tree,
yes.
Also, if I was to walk into any supermarket in the UK today, there's about 6 or 7 different more brands of water. And they all have a label on them, carrying different contents of different elements at times. So I ask myself, which one of these is water?
That's a good question.
Pick up a litmus paper, very basic, some of the things we learned in science at school, and test the pH of the content. And you can do that with your fruits as well. And you start to understand the amounts of salt and sugar, acid, based on that you are calcifying yourself with, which I think doesn't help with having these conversations where I can pick up more meaning and value with what you say because I am more awake and more conscious. For me, and I hope, because that's what I know to be true, that may be true for others. And luckily, I have encountered others, perhaps even yourself, that this has been the case for. So moving forward, all of what we're discussing to me is one conversation. How do we help our people? How do we help ourselves? Most of all, how do we do things today so 18 generations down the line, or less, our children are more aware of what they need to do what it is they came here to do, as opposed to this journey at this time period, the Aquarius time period, when we have arrived to make those changes forward. So to me, if that means sweeping the floor, that would be the best thing I've ever done.
My God.
If that means being somewhere in an office, that's what I would do. If that means fundraising, that's what we're doing. If that means doing a joint workshop, give more exposure, sharing on social media, coming to your events, participating, maybe presenting something. However, we're here. I am here as an individual. In terms of our organization, we work as a team. And so sometimes that can be difficult as well. And I understood what you were saying with regards to some of the platforms and running platforms. A lot of us have our own journeys, and in that matrix, it can be difficult to be consistent in terms of taking the right and the next steps forward, even whilst we practice. It's one thing to learn things and have the knowledge, our and the wisdom. It's another thing to convert that into our application, apply it, and make changes.
Yes.
And so that journey in terms of, I think, what you and I are in terms of healers in a specific context or using their language, change facilitators, we're there to be there for when people may need us in the way that they may need us to provide the information that they need to make the next step at that point in time. And in that process, I find a lot of learning, i.e. I learn from you, and as I am learning from others, as others too in turn learn from me. And in a way, that is how we have grown our concept of approaching and working with individuals called firstly individual and centered and having more one-to-one conversations. And the reason we do that is because of meaning and value and communication, some of the spells in which we speak with. English is very either or, as you know, in terms of not just speaking, in terms of processing, in terms of therefore the framing of the mind itself, and therefore how you conceptualize things. So without not enough of us having a different and alternative language present, which we use to begin to assist and support with the information, we then have to consult what we encounter, which is English or Latin or French or whatever this matrix system has donated to us over the time period. And in that encounter, we need to decolonize. In that encounter, we need to then update and upgrade with regards to, well, I love what you spoke about before, because it took us in a very short, precise and concise way. And for me, in a very moving way too, of our history. There is this material fascination in chemics and what Hollywood would like to show, or what Western media, the UK, I don't like to watch them. But really interesting. Would like to show about who we are, when we are, at the time period where the medium we'd like to continue the brainwashing of the various COVID religions. And so there's a lot of work to do. One of the things that I'd like to go back and forth with is to develop maybe some joint workshops where we can give more exposure, bring more people in globally that we can support in different ways. If with training, if it's with awareness, if it's with that. And of course, there is this undercurrent of doing something for nothing that I think is quite important traditionally in terms of my learnings, my readings, and my own understanding of who we were. And that for nothing is even limited. You coined it in a different way, but equally, and I picked up on that, we live in the external as opposed to looking at the internal. My heart, my lungs, my kidney have to work in symmetry, and all have to work systemically for us to have this conversation. If my mouth says, do you know what, Yannick, I'm not speaking, and my brain says, well, I need you to speak, then we're not talking in the way that we're talking now.
Exactly, absolutely.
We know the symmetry, because if you look inside, it is there, it is all around you. If you really want to look outside, but you have to begin that journey by understanding the internal to know sometimes what it's outside. we're at different places. And when I speak to people, and some people like yourself, I have to say, I have to be humble. There's a lot of learning that I need to receive from you. A lot of learning, and let me repeat, because there's plenty I don't know. Even as much as I think I know X, Y, and Z, it's still very, very small. And the X, Y, and Z that I know is only based on what I know, which is very futile.
That's a good one.
And ridiculous, because what is actually known in terms of the truth of the world is completely different to what I know. And
like
so that allows me really always to say, teach me too. Let me learn your ways, not the Western ways of doing things. I am also a student, and I want to be the best student for you, and I want to be the best student for the world. So teach me too, and that way I can be able to teach. That's the exchange of information that we're having, that I'm hoping that we're looking forward to, and I hope we can do some workshop, put together some workshop and to really give exposure to the work that we're doing, and bring it to the people that we need. And in the UK, we are plugged into the currency system in terms of power, in terms of dollar, whereby I think we can utilize some of these to bring in more resources, virtually more dynamic I'm very critical of money. I tell you that my background is investment. Some of the things that the ancestors said to me and hence I told them to hence the part. When I pushed that out and I said I want to do money and I'm very happy with material things. But that's not to say that there isn't a certain money to what we need for why. But I always try to look for a better way we can do this where our conversation is money for me. Because I was brought here and with me and all of me, the time is more valuable than a unique native thing just now that I can benefit. And then I think we can move forward. We've been talking for an hour, this will continue forever. So I'm going to shut up, and I hope that this is, like I said, the beginning of many, many conversations, some recorded and a lot more offline, where there are specific things where you and I both know we have to be careful when we're in recording how to talk about.
My God. It's an honor to really speak to you, Yannick. You know, the thing is, sometimes it really hurts because you have to speak to 1,000 people to find one person. That's actually that's the sad thing about it. Yeah,
I know.
That's the sad thing. That's what hurts me the more. You know, sometimes I have to really speak to. You know, you have to maybe post something 10,000 times to find one person that can really digest it. So, honestly, meeting spirits like you, it's really amazing. You know, ever since I began to be more awake and I began to really appreciate myself even more. I love what you've done with your hair. It's absolutely very, very unique. I think that's our beauty, you know, being unique in our own way. So it's really an honor just to meet somebody like you who understands what is really going on. That person is very, very dangerous for the system. You know, ever since we have had people who really understand what's going on, they're easily targeted. You know, people who really know what's going on are very dangerous people. Very, very dangerous people. So to have us connecting in this level, like you said, something very deep. You said that if we're gonna do something that, you know, can leave a mark for the next generation, I think that's what I breathe, brother. That's my oxygen, you know. That's powerful, brother. That's really powerful for you to say that.
What you have said with regards to our history is powerful, and I am so happy, so happy we have been able to capture it today. Without being able to capture it, I would have it in me, but I wouldn't have it in me in the way that I want to go back and look at it again. And I hope you don't mind if I share it and copy your platforms
Please.
on social media. What I normally do is just add some background music to it. I would like to add some links from your website and your social media platforms to it, and then we post it on YouTube, and I'll send you it can be quite a large video, so we just use YouTube as a platform to post it, and I'll send you the stuff, and then we share it out. But I think this is the beginning of our future, and I'd like us to maybe do this and bring it to the public, get out some flyers, maybe once a month or as regular as we have the availability, or maybe more importantly, when we feel we have content for the ancestors, give us the information and the call in which to tell them more about it.
My God, I like that. I love it. I really want to learn. Sometimes you look at something from a certain perspective and you think, okay, that's it. You're like, okay, that's it. But it's not what. There's a lot of things that we do not know. And when we bring our minds together, we get to know even much more. So I really love the idea of workshop that you have introduced. We prepare a series of lectures that we give out weekly at Solar Banking. So we actually identify key expertise that each of our members are expert on, and then they tend to teach us more on that. Like last week we had the population of man. This week we have a brother who is teaching on science and environment. We have it on a Sunday. Definitely invite you to attend it and to film it on the really place. So it would be an honor, maybe we can have series of lectures also with you as well. It really be a blessing to have. You are amazing. You're teaching us and giving us that kind of knowledge. Our people need to be fed, because you spend 20 years feeding the body and eating anything. It's very, very difficult. I spent 2 days without eating. It's dangerous to my own body. Think about our spirits which have been completely shut down for years without feeding them the right information. So sometimes I understand my people, how they are. When I see a brother on the street insulting, speaking vulgar, don't condemn. I know, because if you have been downloading those apps and those information for 10 years, it's who you are. You in the sector of health, you know what who you are. So if really we can get those kind of information on health and diet and how to really, I'm struggling myself personally to really give up to such bad habits of consuming certain kind of products. It's only lately I've become more conscious about what I consume, but again, it's difficult. We feed our children milk, cow milk. There's no animal in the world that I've seen who, I've never seen a lion breastfeeding, an elephant, a baby elephant before. The question I have is why would I be drinking milk from another animal? So there are a lot of things that we do because of habits. A lot of things. Sometimes when a child is born, a child cannot tell who is a black person, who is a white person, who is a Chinese. These are things that they get taught in a young age. So if we will get as much information from you, permit me to use the word extract. It's not like we want you dead or anything, but if we can extract as much knowledge from you as possible before you leave this world, I'll really be absolutely amazed. To be honored to have that.
The same with you. I would love for you to share with me. You can actually just post them on our platform that you have joined today, the Greenwich Alpha Bullen one, or any one of the others that you're involved in, just so we can share your work on our platforms too, and more people can get to learn. Different things carry different resonance because people have different frequencies with different people. And so therefore we like to encourage them. And this is something that is needed. This is something that is needed by us here to help and support with the challenges that you've just identified. Just to share something very quickly with you. I used to be an alcoholic, 8-9 years. I used to, and to put that in context, I didn't drink every day, but I drank in that careless way whereby I would drink for a bad reason, not to have fun. I would drink to mask what I was going through. I would drink to pretend I was having a good time. I would drink to make myself forget. And so during the weekend and the nature of my job in terms of finances, Thursday night when we were starting to quiet out, it became a pattern. And then to start to break out of that pattern became more difficult. And it was the first time I asked myself, well, I always thought I could start. And then I said, well, I'll go this weekend without drinking and I could. And then when things got tough, got stressful, and life becomes difficult, as it does sometimes, that's what I would resort to, because that is my coping, my learning mindset in terms of coping mechanisms. And so the journey, 7 years now or so, 7 or 8 years now or so sober, has been eye-opening insofar as what it takes and what it has taken for me to change that behavior, to get to the point where I can sit with you, I don't crave out, I don't miss it. I realized that I didn't like the taste of it in the first place when I was drinking it, never mind anything else. But yes,
that's a good one.
I was happily and taking the spirits, and I use that word carefully and correctly, and confusing my system even more so that it had been confusing. But to put it in a different way, if you've ever tried to manage your weight, so whether it's adding weight on or actually reducing weight, you would realize it's very, very difficult when you're first starting something to achieve. So if you've ever tried to fast responsibly in line with your own system, you would also realize that when you first start, like with everything else, riding a bicycle, learning to swim, it's going to be difficult. With foods and things like that, where the addiction is behavioral and it's mental, and it's mental, there are various different places of that spectrum that you have been locked in that is incredibly challenging. So with alcoholism, people relapse, what you call relapse, quite a lot. They will go 3 years, they will go through a divorce or something, and then they'll relapse again. And they'll go 5 years. That's why they've got something in this one for Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a lifetime. You almost have to submit that you're an alcoholic for a lifetime. I don't submit to that. I direct things in my life that I understand now some of the things that were happening, and maybe not some of the ones that may even privy to know some of the ones that were truly happening yet. But I know things were happening to me that were external. But at the same time, I held a responsibility to my own truth, to what I had done, to buy into some of those things, and then be truthful as to what I needed to do. But that journey taught me that change, individual change, to say you want to change anything you tell yourself you want to change from today to tomorrow, any objective you say you want to have, to make that happen is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult, not impossible, but most of the things to achieve anything, you don't come into this world by yourself, you need them up with that. And so you need some kind of a support mechanism around you in order to do that. And I think that's why you and I and others have been given the information, and knowledge to then go back and share it with people, because I know all have, and I also need people that share information they are sharing with me as yourself, and learning that person. So thank you, brother. I'm super excited about what is going on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, are you? I'm usually. I'm not a family man yet, but I'm a student. But I'm currently studying business management as well. But it's online. It's the University in America for University of Phoenix, University of the People. Offers courses for free, so I'm doing that currently. And also. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters who are currently in Africa, in Zambia, and I have another brother who is in Malaysia, married as well, and I have a girlfriend, but I'm 26, so I'm hoping to return to the continent soon as well. You say you're from Cameroon, I guess?
Yeah, you say you're in India?
Yeah, currently I'm in India.
Yes, I can. How long have you been in India for?
This is almost 6 years now. It's been
yeah.
It's pretty okay. The Indian people are good if you're good to them. They're amazing people. They're very, very smart in terms of technology, and there's also in terms of consciousness. There are a few who know more about life, but many are also locked in the system, like many Africans as well. Money is the god over here. So, I wish things would be different, but that's the case over here as well. I think it's the case almost everywhere where people tend to worship, that paper. So we hope that things will be different, that we could turn things around differently. But I feel them. I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, we're just the same. It's just they don't see that we are all the same. We're all the same. We're just serving the same master.
Exactly the same master.
But I really appreciate for the time that you've allocated for me to speak on this. But I hope that maybe in the future as well we can also use some of our smart people to make our own platforms for us as well. Where we can also use.
As a service, is there anything you guys need right now? How can we be a little bit more helpful? Is there a way? What do you guys need right now?
Well, right now we basically have projects that we're working on, so we need enough minds that can really brainstorm. That's the first thing. We need enough minds. But we need people who really are vibrating at a different frequency of love. We're looking for people who are vibrating at a frequency of love. We don't have time for the other frequencies. So we're looking. That's the most important thing we're looking for right now. And then those people need to come with certain expertise that they can add in terms of technology, in terms of knowledge, in terms of spirituality, in different aspects of life as well. And we're also looking for people who can fund some of the projects that we're working on. Like, for example, the farming projects. It means we need to be able to make sure all the 58 ambassadors have this small 3x3 meters by 3 meters garden in their house. So if you look on our website, you go on the farming project, you could see the farming slide, starting your own garden. So it requires a certain amount of funds to be able to establish that garden. So we're actually imposing it on our members, that if you live in a house, if you have an open yard, go on the website, look at the slide. There are steps over there on how to make the beds for the farms started. So sometimes to push them out, we need to be able to see how we can also fund them so they can buy the right amount, the right seeds, bio seeds, because many seeds out there are messed up. We need the bio seeds. So we need to find that we are planning to buy seeds to be able to give these people to plant the necessary crop, because soon, the way I am looking at the world, soon it will be very difficult to access certain kind of seeds. So we need the funding and the mental support and the mind. And currently, the website has been run, I think it's on WordPress. Mm-hmm. So we're also looking for people who can really vision out our idea of how the website should look like into the world. We're also looking for content writers. We want to build some sort of an encyclopedia where you can go. If you want to know anything about any country in Africa, you just click and you read about it. We're looking for podcast people who can make voice out those. And we're also looking for animators, because every teaching that we have on the foundation course, there are many people who tend to learn better when they're sitting visually. They're tired of someone sitting and speaking behind the mic. So we're looking for animation creators who can and content animation creators and screenplay writers. How can we convey our messages into a story in an animation form that can easily capture the young people as well? Because the war is very strong. Because if you look at Disney, the way Disney is going, if we cannot beat that, it's very difficult. So we're looking at animation people who can make contents like Disney and interesting, so we can put our messages in a very story-like way, but sending the message out. So we're looking for animators, content writers. We're looking for scientists who can envision how we can tackle and take control of our food. We're looking for book writers and book readers. We have the Ubuntu book club where we're reading certain type of books. We're looking for people who can come and really brainstorm on the books. So in the club, we read certain books to capture certain ideas and then see how we can use them. So we're looking for people in all domains. We're looking for priests, like I said, we're looking for founders, scientists, we're looking for governors as well. We're looking for people who know how to write legislative laws, constitutional laws, So yeah, definitely. But the list is very wide. But for now, it's still looking for people who have a good mind of love, and they can bring in their expertise. So if you're a doctor, bring your skills of being a doctor. So, but again, the problem is most of our people are educated under the matrix. So if you're a doctor, you have been educated in medicine under the matrix. You believe in molecules and all that, but we believe in more of medicine that is more natural. African medicine that is really more natural. It means you're really touching the plants that we need people who can research on certain plants and how effective they can be naturally. We don't believe in molecular kind of medicine. We don't believe in testing for medicine in labs, in rats. No, we don't believe in. So we're looking for people in all domains, my brother. All domains. So it's really amazing, brother, to ask that question.
There's a lot we have in common in terms of how we want to get messages out. We have an animation platform, animation activities that we have started to collect, especially when it comes to telling our story and putting it in a language which I think children and others brings it home in a different way. I will happily send you an invite to that. My thinking is, how do we bring all of these people, because we need them, or develop a team, as we were trying to do amongst earlier, that can do this work, but that team can then collaborate with other teams. And so we have a production team that maybe is regularly producing and looking at our content and saying, well, how do we turn all of this into some kind of a story and series, etc. that we share it out. We're trying to be authentic with it, so I can feel this conversation with yourself, have an animator there that we convert it into a very simplistic, or any other workshop online that we want, into a very simplistic story video that fits into the series, and then it regularly goes out. So there isn't an end date, it's just a regular. How frequent that would be is unsaid yet. Now, we've been trying this, to be honest, for the last 18 months. There is another gentleman, Pichu, who's also from Congo, that works with
that's amazing.
Posted in group. He's an artist, he's part of our organization, similar age to myself, and so we are trying to find more people to grow it and doing some work internally, exactly like you've just said. So we share that need and see that vision and the whys, and just to kind of build on it together, and see if we can take somebody in. I have a suggestion maybe for you to go away, maybe talk with your others. I'm adverse to money, but I'm very interested in taking back some of our liberation, and I mean some of the money that's in the system belongs to us. And so when we're actually making applications for things like, I'm very keen on making applications for non-governmental organizations, charities, local governments. And so if we have an organization in India that we can make joint applications for international charities, United, etc. I think we're investing in subtracting the money to reinforce some of the things that we want to do in the locations, if we can get it. Now, given our it is what it is, we encounter what we expect we are going to encounter with that venture, and I understand why you say we can't speak out. But it's a question of trying that as well as doing other things, the principle of not putting all your eggs in one basket, but not expecting it to materialize either. And I guess it's an opportunity for us, because we forego time for the satisfaction of not getting anything out of that venture. And so it's a difficult ask when you put it that way, but at the same time, it allows two things, for us to highlight, continue to our own kind of injustices that we do, and for us to expose it for us to document and make experience this time for those that will come after us, so they have a documented history to follow up on. And it also allows for, if our ancestors make the changes, or we make the changes, then we will get something, and if that can contribute to the work that I think we're trying to do that needs, because of their system, which is what we live in, finance to do it all, then let's take it from where we can take it. Absolutely.
Very, very impressive, brother. I do believe we should get the reparations back. I hope though we can get it systematically, and because the money that is circulating in the West has no real value. Back in the days, we used to keep money, we used to keep gold on the side, and then we put the value on our paper money depending on the gold that we have. So if you give me, if you have $100 note in your pocket, it means you have $100 worth of gold somewhere in the bank. But today the money that we have is mostly just paper. So it's very so I would actually hope they give us a reparation in terms of gold and land. That was much better, but a certain amount of money in the bank, I could lose it in a day. But I would never lose land.
That whole system is from some of the deeper conversations I would like to have with you other times about money and structural perspective, what happened money to people. And then linking that to numbers and looking at some of the concepts around super mathematics. So with money, interest, and reading the things, and Pythagoras and all that, it was like a girl and started defining the way value is created. If we're going to create value, as we were sent here to do, is by me cultivating and bringing together all of what it is that I am. And that gives it value. The goodness which I invest in all of that. The time, the use of my time, that's also an element, a key element in creating the value. And my spirit in terms of how I'm doing it. So we have something of value. Today, our methods of doing things is to align factors of production and create something, absence of the fact that is it valuable, i.e. interest in terms of financial mechanism, in terms of derivatives. So interest is one thing. Hang on, I've not made anything. I've not gone to the farm. Nothing has grown, but yet this bunch of plantains is now worth £2,000. So it's, and to that piece of information that you have there, which is how we did things in terms of gold, how we're doing things today where we're not creating any value in it. No, the only thing that is fixed in this world that really has intrinsic value is the earth itself, the land. The land is, there's no factory producing anywhere that you know of or I know. And as there's no factory in terms of the capitalist system, that then brings in the supply and demand mechanism where you're influencing price. So you've got price elasticity and price elasticity of supply and demand, where when you hit equilibrium, that gives you your buying and your sell price. All of that is when you put factor of interest into the market, and the fact that I can put £1 in the bank if I'm a rich person and claim 100% interest every day, and so tomorrow that £1 will be 2, whilst you as a poor person are paying interest. Now the bank has to balance itself in that, so they will be charging you 25% interest for going over the one because you don't have that £1, because that person's £1 that's
my God
forwarded to you. So it's a first relationship in terms of we continue from government after government after government to play this financial game with them where we can never win it. And you make a strong point about they have been doing this before 500 years in terms of structural racism. And that's what the structure, the financial structure is not focusing on the interpersonal racism that is applied today, the structural elements. And if you look at the structural elements, the 6,000 plus years of structural discrimination that they have donated to us wherever we have been, you then start addressing slightly, ever so slightly, maybe differently. But to me, there is so much that I learned that when I hear from you, it inspires me to then go back and read and learn other things too, that reinforces and consolidates sometimes that information or dismisses it and say, Yannick, you're wrong about it. But again, I think to myself, surely if I'm wrong about what I think, the truth of what I know, I want you to correct me. That's the best thing that can happen to me. I may not like it, but that's my conditioning when you're doing it based on their seven deadly sins, envy, pride, greed, and all and so on and so forth. But in truth, let me repeat, you have done me a favor if it then allows me to go and correct that behavior, which allows me to make my journey forward. Isn't that correct? So,
my God.
Trying to, a lot of us are not there yet. I'm not there yet because I get upset, I get angry, I get frustrated, I let all of these emotions wreak havoc amongst myself. And so I need to learn to control them. But a lot of our governments haven't picked up and realized that money was never, we were never going to catch up with money because we didn't start from parity. And they were then putting structures that would mean we would never catch up with parity. So that 10% Illuminati, so to speak, that you've spoken of, that owns the masses of the world's resources. Every time you make a pound, when we're talking about money, how much do they make? Because it's a pyramid system. And they have to make money in terms of how it's designed whilst you're sleeping, because you are the slave in that system. So
they make money while
they're working, because what they buy from you in terms of mortgages and this is 25, 30 years. How long do you live for? That long. So the money system has always been fraudulent. I love again what you said about the democratic system and how democracy works and why it's false. In that logic, but the money system, we haven't realized that one of the diseases, we use the barter system and when we start looking at how things became religions, how religion came about, we start to understand the money system. When you look at the root of what nothing people say is about, and you get past the media message, and you go to that because Jesus even in their own books, when he does that, you look at the factual and the others are historical books, whichever ones you read them, they have that in their literature. And so therefore, they know with regards to money and with the former, there is numbers. I'm not using numbers. I'm back to saying that numbers are the most pure way we can use communication which started teaching everybody else. We spoke about India. They still have this. They still have access to this information. They have the pure form and now it's so one day, but all the time during that time. And so it's not as pure in our genetic code today as it is already, because they haven't gone through as much of a distortion. But yet, because of, I think, we have gone through that, somehow all of this allows our freedom, because you and I can have this conversation where we can see that on the side. Stepping out of that matrix is one thing. There's very few people that have stepped out of it that are at the bottom of it, because that's a very unique thing to have achieved. And I don't think that is just because you want to. I think that's because something else is going on. And I don't know what that is, but that's what my intuition. But the money system is one of the messages that I'm not saying not to use money, you can't. It's a capital, you're born into it. But to use it very, very carefully. If you haven't made value, and if somebody gives you something that is based on something that hasn't made value, that oppresses you, because it's what makes us all have to go to work 30, 40, 50 years and produce things to sell that the West wants, not before us, the technology thing. So money, we could do 10, 15, 30 lectures on this before people will begin to grasp it. I think this will take me my lifetime to get this message out there, but it's to bring us back to a barter system. And to start to awaken and understand the difference between using money and what money was appropriate for long distance, i.e.
I would very much want to learn how you were going to structure the barter system. That's very interesting. I would love to learn how to do that. Your vision behind that. Yeah, that would be an honor to really learn that.
It's to bring experts in their experience on the field like yourself, which is some of the work we have started, and to bring others. You are already doing it. And it's not to recycle what is already being done, it's to come and learn from you and then see how we can build from there. And if somebody else is doing it, go and see what they're doing, are there synergies? That is the organic structure that we have been told would work for us in terms of roundtable conversations that we have tried to have in the traditional sense. So our meetings are sometimes held in nature, as opposed to this digital medium. I can see your body language, I can hear your voice. There's a difference that adds to the meaning that when it arrives to my ear, ancestors tell me that this is your brother. When he used this word next to you, this is what he means.
My God.
English doesn't capture that. And that's another spell, like I was saying, that they've got, plus their money and their money system. How do we get away from the money system? It's very simple. You go inside. If you haven't created any value and you're indulging in that, that is witchcraft. We're practicing it all the time without realizing and asking, well, what is wrong with the world and what is wrong with us? There's nothing wrong with us. We have just positioned the witchcraft right in front of us and put the temptation in front of us and say, well, if you choose to use, we'll make it so that you need to use it in this world. If you choose to use it, you're not going to tell you what's happening. But we're using money, the medium of exchange. Well, how do we exchange before there wasn't money? I will grow cassava, you will grow plantain in your farm, right? When that middle is going to harvest at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, the same as I do. When you go to the farm at that time, that's transitional harvest. So night ago, when you were harvesting and evening to night, and then during 12 o'clock, when the sun is actually the sun is actually moving so that it's that also possible. Then we used to pick up the ground. All of that is advancement that is used because the sand is moving. So you can see the meditation. You're also cultivating the earth, being able to analyze what the body is, sharing this, and just trying to make it the truth and understanding the truth of course, and not performing for the sake of ignorance and learning as part of that system. Because you say we're secret, how can you know if you're not going to tell someone? So there's so much that we have done already. There isn't anything that I think I never teach that is done by me and us in terms of me consciousness. I am never going to know. You and me can know. We can know. So we have others. You have pieces of I have some pieces. There are others that are even here, or others that haven't awoken yet to know that they hold a very key card in all of this. Because that's how I look at the pyramids. And when you say we can't shift a brick of it today, well, how did we do it? Because levitation happens. So maybe you and I just don't know how to do it because of how we've been indoctrinated. But if it was possible then, and we say we're more intelligent today, we are not understanding what intelligence is. The nature of the intelligence that we have today is very different to the type of intelligence that traditionally we come from. And therefore, how do we go back to our own version of intelligence itself? Because we haven't decolonized intelligence yet.
Bro, yeah, Nick, man, where have you been, brother? Where have you been, brother?
So many of us. There's so many of us. These are things that are not my own. I have picked up and learned from other people like yourself. So when I speak today, I don't carry just my voice. I carry the education of you. I carry the education of teaching, of people that are posting of the work that you're doing right now. Where I go and then I ask my ancestors one thing when I pray, show me the way. Because I found that I was asking for material things, or I want this for myself, or I want that to know, which is kind of that. I was brought up Catholic, Roman Catholic, Christian, as well as you were saying. I went to church every Sunday, etc. Our family was like that, but my family still practiced African spirituality. My parents are chiefs, and all of that. So we've got that dichotomy of the two. So I do have the enculturalization of that process. And then when I think about things like elements of what love means and decolonizing love, and then in terms of what it means to us, there is the romantic love that I think is always at play there, that is absent of action. But you need the harmony in terms of the mayak, the balance, the physical action, the emotion, and the symmetry and the alignment of all of the above. So for me to be able to call it love, it is all learning. I cannot speak in this way without learning from you, without learning from others. And I really hope we continue with that. because that's how I believe I grow. I believe I can develop. I believe it's the only way, by knowing the actual things that I don't know at those points when you correct me. That is my development taking place. So do not cheat me out of that. Do not ever cheat me out of that.
My God.
And thank you.
From which side of Cameroon do you come from? From the English side or the French side?
I come from the African side. I come from the alkaline side. I come from my ancestors' side, and our ancestors come from both sides and neither side.
That's a very interesting answer. That's very interesting. It's very interesting. When I ask this kind of question and then I get a response that is borderless, it's that's what I want. I once asked this brother, "Where are you from?" He's like, "I'm African. I'm from Africa. That's it." I love that. You're amazing. You're absolutely amazing.
Deeply African in the place where I offend white people. I speak publicly. We don't get funded. I face racism. I face death threats from all peoples of all colors. But that's because I believe we're deeply and passionately African. I'm talking about what the truth of what we learn and know at that point in time of what Africa is, because that is not static. The more we learn, with it having to be decolonized by us, by ourselves, it's evolving. So the more we learn and know, the more we want to bring what the African values and the values of our system is, and that obviously aligns and doesn't mix. Oil and water don't go together, and there's a reason why we're actually doing salt night and day and so on to separate the two. And because they have colonized the world in terms of racial capitalism, in terms of financial capitalism, it is very difficult for us to breathe. They have taken existence, they have taken living, they have taken that from the world itself, not just from you and me, but they've taken it from everybody. And I hope we can do some work about getting that back and giving it back. So you encounter everything that you encounter. You know it. We have been through it.
My God.
Where you are hard to find, and like we have met, and like I said, we could talk forever, and I want to shut up now because there's so much that goes through my head, and I need somebody like yourself where I think our ancestors have brought it together. There's an alignment here that is taking place.
Yes, brother. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you so much for really meeting again. I think we have met before in the other times. Thank you for meeting again, brother. I really feel the union of spirit and union of mind, and it is the greatest gift ever. I always tell myself that I want to meet one great person this month, and it's already the 9th. Wow. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Tell me, Mr. Victor, I wanted to ask about your name. Your name, Harvey.
Well, the name Avi it comes from my mom and my father. My father's name is Arthur, and my mother's name is Vivian. So Avi, Arthur Vivian. But I've been wanting to change my name to Zola or something like that. But again, it hasn't been easy. But that's the name. Avi means my Arthur and Vivian. Avi. Thank you for asking.
I'm going to share two things with you. The name Yannick that I have, that most people know publicly, and everybody knows, was given to me by my sister, named after a French tennis player called Yannick Noah. And my sister is called Vivian. And so that's why I wanted to tell you that story, similar to your mother. And she's the one that kind of brought me up, and her son, Jules, is one of the closest people I have in my life from childhood. And he's the only one that I grew up with in Cameroon from childhood that knows my experience of migration in terms of that way. More importantly, my son, 8 years old in May, is called Yasu. Now, Yasu is spelled Y-A-S-U. My name is Yannick, so you have the Y name, and then you have the S-U, Montreal and Susan. So you get the Yasu.
Oh, my God. Man, you keep elevating me. You. My God. I never imagined this. Wow.
Imagine that. So I just wow, okay, that's a good session. It's been a pleasure. It's been awesome.
My God. this conversation should end, but God, this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful, brother.
Let me let you go do whatever else you want. I'm sure you're very busy. I'm going to pass my way and go to your website.
Definitely, I'll send you if you can really it's probably like a bomb for us. And you can also send me anything that you want me to post for, and I would gladly share it. I really have to do it every day. And I always have time for my brothers. I always have time for my brothers. I have 24 hours in a day. I can spend an hour for BM. No problem. I can do it.
Share us the link to the video. So the bigger it grows, the more people that register, the more offers they are, and the more things people want to receive, and we just exchange them. Similar to what the mechanism behind cryptocurrency, the mechanism behind the stock exchange, but absent of money. So I produce my Gari in Mamfi, and I want to sell it in Zaire, and you produce your cocoa yams. I may get it. We may know somebody that has Gari in Zaire, and say, can you give this person that a Gari, and then they take their cocoa. Do you see where I'm coming from? So we're matchmaking, but free. There is no charge involved. It's for businesses, it's for individuals, and it's mainly looking at Africa for people that are farming to get organic produce, because we've run the numbers and we don't trust the system. So if your food is made, especially if you live in the UK or elsewhere where you don't grow organic food, you're getting it in America, or so as it says in the tin in the shop, in the supermarket. How do you know that? Given that we're saying we colonize everything. So again, when we start testing these things, it becomes very, very clear that we need to grow our own food stuff. So we
have to, brother. It's an agency. It's really an agency. We have to grow our own food, brother. That's the only way we can really free ourselves, because even the way we're Africans these days are much more weaker than we were before because of what we've been consuming. Like you just mentioned, the idea of the water that we've been consuming as well. So much chlorine in there, fluoride in the water. Sometimes when I take a shower here in India, my head begins to itch. The water is a bit salty. So it's really catastrophic. Sometimes I don't wash my hair anymore with this water, and I think to myself, what happens to my body then? So it's very difficult. The bio place for an African to live is right by the equator in Africa. That's the bio place to live, because living outside Africa for a black person, it's a prison. Many people say, "Yeah, I got a visa. I'm going to America. I'm going to Australia."
Once you get here, then if you're lucky to become awakened, because there's a brainwashing for you to be following the visa in the first place, right?
Exactly.
And so you get here, and then
I come from a place where people fast to get a visa for the state. They say, "Oh, God has finally God has shined His light on my life." But if you're awakened, you want to go back. You're looking back now. So it's absolutely a pleasure. You said I should send the video of the composition of man, right? I can send you by email.
Yes, please. Or if you can send it by WhatsApp or any other means, email, anyhow.
You want the full video? The full
just something I can share on social media.
Wonderful.
So if you've already got a link that plugs into your website and YouTube, even better. If it's already live. If it's not live, then send it to me and I'll get it in live. And then when we finish with this one, I'll maybe do a little bit of editing to take out maybe some of the bits that we may not want to go out to the public at the moment. Put a bit of background music to it. Put it on YouTube and then share it with you so we can go loud with it. And then the other video about the barter exchange, I think I emailed that to you with regards to our conversation, and then doing some workshops coming and
Yes.
bringing you in and doing some workshops around that. And I will let you know about that as well when I hear from your
Yes,
partner.
yes. I'm dying.
And if
I'm
you
dying to get to the workshop. I'm really dying to that.
and it should
Absolutely.
give exposure as well to your work in India. Give us an outlet in India because we don't have one. And then from India, we can build Brazil, other parts, bringing it back home to Africa if you see where my catchment is.
Wow. So before you go, is there anything that you fear? Do you fear anything?
It's a very, 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 very good question. Yes. I fear for some of the things that I don't know about myself and some of the mistakes that I've made.
My God.
Just because I don't know them or I'm not conscious of them doesn't mean that I haven't made them in my genetic code. And I try to ask for forgiveness. When I am talking about forgiveness, that's what I mean. For the things that I truly have done to people that sometimes it's unbeknown to me and it would have been unbeknown to me, but nonetheless caused them harm. And that happens in my past, in my present, and going forward in my future. And so I fear that a lot because I think it's just unfair to the other, and my organic system within myself tells me that I shouldn't approach anyone with disability to live their life, whether it's literally, physically, consciously, doing whatever. And I've known how to do that. It's just through whatever I have learned and the habits that I've chosen to take on that to be a. So in a way, I sometimes feel looking in the mirror and seeing what, not liking some of the things that maybe I want to see, why I'm in this situation. Is there more I can subtract from the Garden of Eden story? And yes, I have sex, even if as a person, a follower of those religions, absent of it. So it's weird, isn't it? I follow the religion and still violate it. So
That's a good one.
I felt comfortable doing so because it was normally that's what everybody does within the religion. On my take, there will be people that don't, obviously. But in my take and in my experience, there's very few people that I meet that wait until as that the religion or other religions prescribes to do things in that way. And so it is fearing myself for harm that I cause. So it's a very specific fear. It's not a general fear of things. But there are other things that I probably don't know of, and I can't tell you it's not coming to me within the context of this conversation to tell you that I fear. But fear is something that I find healthy that exists in me for good reasons, and I hope to cultivate to use life in that way.
My God. I don't even know what to say.
What do you? I'm curious. Do you fear?
I just fear because I feel like what I fear is that I haven't really fully, activated all the 7 senses of energies in me. If you dive into the chakras, the root to the crown, and I fear that I'm still in the 3rd dimension, and I have to get to the 4th and 5th dimension because the earth has already arrived in the 5th dimension. So it means if I die like this, it's very difficult for me to reincarnate back because I will not be in affinity with the earth. So my fear is that to see how. That's where my strength comes in, to move from the 3rd dimension, because if you look at the 7 dispensations, 7 dimensions, so dimension of innocence is when you are in your mother's womb, and then the dimension of consciousness is when you leave the womb and you're born out, and then the 3rd dimension, dimension of choice. It means you're born, you get to 7, 8, 9, 10, and then at the age of 14 for boys, 12 for girls, your spirit wakes up. So many teenagers go crazy at 14 and 12 because that is when the spirit wakes up. So it's at the age of 14, which you enter, that's the third dimension for you to be able to choose whether to live in light or in darkness. And then the fourth dimension is the dimension of law. You have to respect the 40 laws of the Mahat. And then the fifth dimension, the dimension of promise. You have to be able to discover and the eternal gospel. And the sixth dimension is the dimension of promise, which is going to happen in the millennium. But unfortunately, 80% of the world are still in the third dimension. So the fear is that, the fear that I have is to be able to move from the fourth dimension. So yeah, but I really appreciate you so much for asking me that as well.
Even I'm appreciating that I asked, because I've just learned something that I didn't know. And when I say that, I may have heard what you were saying before too, but I didn't hear it from you.
Oh.
And that's what I mean by, even this, if I'm next to you, there's more power in what you're telling me. In terms of the value, my DNA, my mechanism, my body will tell it, because my ancestors will tell me, without me realizing who you are. I may not know your name, I may not know any of those kind of details about you, but they're still telling me. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense.
I love the name. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful name. So if you ever want to change the name to that, you have my support, because I love it. But I think your parents might not like it, because I wouldn't like it myself.
No, they wouldn't. I really appreciate it so much for the way, and I hope you can send my greetings to Yasu.
Yasu will have your greetings. I'm coming to your workshop. You're going to be coming to mine. I'm going to be showing videos of you and me and Yasu. As you will see on my social media feeds and platforms, Yasu is the reason why I do this work, and that's what I was trying to say before in a different language, the future. He's what told me of, he's the first version of my people. And so if there is mistakes in me, now is the time for me to correct them.
That's good. I like that.
And for him to be able to see and share what those mistakes are with him, so he can know my mistakes, but know the truth of my mistakes, not the fabrication, and begin to understand why. Because I think that helps him then teach his child about the truth of my mistakes, and so they can make less mistakes. I think that's something momentous to do. And some of the spells that we maybe have locked ourselves.
My God.
Which the dimensions that you have just spoken of, in the mechanisms for us to enlighten us.
Yes.
The tools,
yes, brother.
Zola, let's talk over WhatsApp. I'm sure if things come up again, we might try to catch up and speak again like this. So I'm open. Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The time that you've allocated, it's really, I'll never forget this day. I'll never.
No,
and I might be able to use it as the opening statement in my future speeches. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I love you being you, and I really appreciate you so much. May you continue to grow and continue to be a blessing to me as well. Thank you so much.
May we both continue to grow.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too.